So you want to make a small Christmas ornament. Well, let's dive into the fun. You'll need a strip of fabric cut on the grain. I'm starting with a strip that goes from one selvage edge to the other. It's plenty wide, or really this is the circumference that's going to go around that ball, and we will sort out this dimension later in the video. I'll explain what I mean. So give that an ironing, roll it up on a dowel, and let's get to pleating. This is a fairly short length, which means pleating by hand wouldn't be that time consuming. These smocked ornaments are so neat, and there's so many different combinations. And they also make wonderful gifts. It's a fun, small project with endless embellishment options. Friendly reminder to pull out enough thread so you have some to work with. And now that your pleating threads are in the fabric, trim up the fabric on either side if necessary. You want to avoid extra fabric here since it'll just kind of pop out like this, and that's definitely not the look we're going for. At least not the look I'm going for on this ornament. I can see how that can be used for other looks, but that's not the look I'm going for with this one. So I'm going to trim it up just on the other side of that pleating thread, and now we can move on to blocking this piece. To do this, I pulled the pleating threads out on one side and tied those together in groups of 2s or 3s. Then I'm going to roughly wrap my pleated fabric around the ball so I can see how long the length, the circumference, that dimension I was talking about earlier, needs to be. And this checks a few boxes in one step. It handles the pleating ratio and then the length of the fabric that you will need. So I'm pulling out the pleating threads here, making sure to give some seam allowance, and I tie off those pleating threads in groups of 2s or 3s. At this point, I'm only concerned with the length of my smocked piece. I am not at all concerned with how those pleats look, so don't worry if they're not evenly spaced. So from there, I recommend smocking this before putting it on the ball. Yes, I normally like to construct first and then smock, but this is one of those exceptions. So I smocked the ball, and really this is an opportunity to let the creativity go. It is not an heirloom dress that will be passed through your family, so there aren't those expectations on how things should look. It's just an ornament for your Christmas tree. Have fun. Bring all the colors, bring the sparkle. Here I'm using floche and then some metallic thread. Just have at it. Add beads, crystals, bells. You get the picture. And if you need a back smock, just a friendly reminder to do this now, because as we continue, we're going to construct the ornament onto the ball and you won't have access. So do all your back smocking now. So at this point, you can remove all the pleating threads except the top 2. These top 2 threads on each side of the ornament need to stay in the fabric for now, and I will explain why as the video continues. So move those threads out of the way and sew the smock fabric together with right sides together. You'll want to sew just on the other side of those last pleats. Align up those pleats so they are on top of each other, and then just sew along, putting the seam together. Pull on each side of those pleating threads to make sure they aren't pierced in that seam. If the thread moves, then you're good to go. But if it doesn't move, that means your needles pierced that thread, in the previous seam, and you need to unpick that area and move the threads out of the way, and then try to sew the seam again. I only had one thread caught out of the 4 total, so it's fairly good odds that you're not going to catch them. But again, you want to make sure that they are all free and movable. And so once I redid that seam, all of my threads were free to move about. So I turned the fabric right sides out and put it onto the ball. So exciting, we are almost done, and it's just coming together. Isn't that cool? So center the fabric onto the ball, pulling on those 2 pleating threads on each side, and tie those together as tight as they will go. And then tie the other 2 pleating threads, again, as tight as they will go on the other side of that ball. And look at this, we are almost done. So if you need to trim those ends down anymore, go ahead and do that. Being careful you don't trim too much and that pleating thread doesn't pop out on the other side. You know what I mean? So at this point, we've got those holes that we need to cover up, and there are endless options here. You can use ribbon, lace, you could do buttons, beads, but I have this little sparkle that I am going to hot glue to the ornament. So first I put some hot glue onto the inside to secure the ends of the fabric down, and then I glued this little sparkle piece onto the ends, Of course, on one of those ends, I put some ribbon underneath, to be able to hang it, and voila, a smocked Christmas ornament. Go check out this smocked Christmas stocking for more holiday fun. And if you have any questions, put them down in the comments below, and I will do my best to answer them. And as always, I appreciate y'all for watching, and I hope to catch y'all next time.